Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I have with me in the studio today an 80-year-old. They call it octogenarian. Mr. Gregory Aiyemo is 80 years old this very day that we are recording. 80 years old. Congratulations.
Thank you, Father.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. I remember the 70th birthday we had. Yes. Mr. Gregory Aiyemo is the catechist of Luke's Terra chaplaincy community, and he has been catechist of this community since 2013. And he is a Eucharistic minister here at the chaplaincy community. Before then, Mr. Aiyemo, who is a trained accountant, trained in accountancy, worked at the audit office of the Northern Nigerian government. After finishing high school, that is HSC, finished secondary school, he had his secondary school at Government College, Kefi, which was one of the 2 or 3 provincial colleges in those days. We had the middle school in Okene, we had the Arewa College, we had Barewa College, we had Government College Kefi, and we had Okene as the provincial colleges in those days. Now, when he finished, he went to the College of Arts and Sciences, which became Ahmadu Bello University. College of Arts and Science that eventually became Ahmadu Bello University. He went there in 1964.
59 to 62.
Sorry, 59 to 62. Okay. And it is after that you
went to the audit
office
of government, then went back to the Institute for the Accountancy Diploma in 1964.
It was in 1964 after working in the audit department. Ah, okay. And when he finished his course at the Institute of Administration.
Yes.
When was that?
1964.
1964 to 65.
It's a 1-year program, 1964.
1964. Oh, by then they used to begin in January.
Yes, it was a pioneer program that we were the first set.
You were the first set
of that accounting diploma course
in Ahmadu Bello University.
Yes.
Institute of Administration.
Yes.
Then he began to work with British Petroleum, 1965.
Yes.
British Petroleum. British Petroleum was one of the big petroleum companies in those days, BP, that became African Petroleum that has become Forte Oil. Now, and after a few years in British Petroleum till 1970, thereabout.
Yes, about 70.
As a salesman in Northern Nigeria.
I was a sales rep.
Sales rep, you are traveling all over Northern Nigeria as a sales rep.
All over.
Then he he moved over to a company, United Arewa Chemists.
Yes.
As a company, and you worked there from 1970
to 1991.
Now, something happened, and you were in Kano most of that time.
No, that period I was in Kano.
You were in Kano. Now, what happened in 1991, which many people remember, is that there were sectarian riots in Kano.
Yes.
That chased away non-indigens. Many, I think as much as 50% of non-indigens in Kano fled Kano and went back to their states of origin. And you returned to Kogi State, to Magongo in Kogi State.
Yes.
And that is when I met Mr. Gregory Aiyemo. And Mr. Gregory Aiyemo and myself have been working together since that time, 1991-92.
Yes.
By 1992, I became, in 1991, the editor of the Light newspaper, the newspaper of the Diocese of Lokoja, and he became the sub-editor, the assistant editor, and worked with me from the year 1991-92 to the year 2000 in the newspaper. And then, during the period, he had a stint with the Mining and Granite company in Bauchi as administrative officer. Administrative manager. Then, 1999, he moved over to the Catholic Secretariat of Nigeria as the administrative secretary, working closely with the Secretary General. I became Secretary General in the year 2000, and he worked closely with me. He was actually the coordinator of the Catholic Secretariat Forum, which became very popular monthly encounter. From the year 2000, administrative secretary, he worked until I left the secretariat at the end of the year 2006, and in 2007, he also left the Catholic Secretariat. And then we started the Luke's Terra Leadership Foundation in the year 2008, and he started it with me as the administrative secretary of Luke's Terra Leadership Foundation, and has remained in that position until very recently. But in 2013, in addition to being administrative secretary, he also became the catechist of the Luke's Terra chaplaincy community. And at 80, he is still the catechist, and is able to run around to do his work and jump around like a 60-year-old. We praise God for your life. Congratulations.
Thank you, Father.
Happy 80th birthday.
Thank you, Father.
Now, tell us about how it has been. It means if you are 80, you were born in 1940.
1940, yes.
During the colonial rule.
Yes.
At a time where you had, like you said, you had like 3 or 4 government colleges in the entire northern Nigeria.
Oh, sure, yes.
It means there wouldn't have been up to 30, 40 colleges, government colleges in Nigeria at that time.
Yes, there were very few.
Very few.
Very few.
Yeah.
In fact, in the north then, apart from Kefi and Zaria.
And Barewa College.
Yes, Kefi and Barewa College. These were the 2
government
colleges that were very well known. Mm-hmm. Others were, like Aliede.
You didn't call my own now.
Okay.
Okene.
Yes, Abdulaziz.
Yes. Government secondary school Okene at that time.
Yes, that's right. And then Bida, and then Aliede.
Well, that's a church school.
Those were mission secondary school. They were few.
You had St. Paul's, Usasa?
Yes, Usasa was there.
Yes.
And I think there was another college in Plateau province at that time.
Yeah, is that Hillcrest, or Hillcrest came later?
No, it came later.
Yeah. So, you went to primary school in Magongo and in Okene, and you went to government college Kefi, and then of course you started working and then doing courses and so on. What was life like in the 40s and early 50s? What was life like? Because we see a lot of things happening today. I mean, in recent times, there has been an uproar about the upsurge in rape in this country. How did young people like you, when you were 15, when you were 20, how did young people manage their sexuality? How were they introduced to their to knowing how to respond to their sexual impulses? I know that you come out of Magongo, and in Magongo, Asinogori, yes. We had the Owiya culture.
That's right.
And you dare not touch a girl who has not...
Oh, no.
It's abomination.
It's abomination.
A girl who has not been introduced, who has not been initiated into womanhood.
Yes, it's an abomination. And in fact, any girl that brings that to the family is treated as
an outcast.
Almost an outcast.
Now, what about the boy? If a boy should violate a girl who has not been introduced to
as at that time,
yes,
you hardly find cases where
a boy violates a girl.
No, I mean, this is not something that is heard of. No one will expect to, if at all, it will be so clandestine that it doesn't come into the open. But
what people are saying now, some of the agencies that are working on this rape are saying that it was widespread, only that people didn't talk about it. What do you have to say?
No, it wasn't widespread at all. As a matter of fact, we went about in those early years, and not thinking of this
of sex.
Yes, sex as a no. Nobody. You went about your business. Even we're going to school at a stage almost naked.
Yeah, I'm told that people who attended school, maybe a little before you, people who attended school in the 1910s, 1915s,
yes.
1920s, they went to school actually naked.
Naked, yes. So it didn't really mean anything. You play around, boys and girls, you play around without this perversion that there's something else beyond
just being classmates and schoolmates.
It didn't happen. It just did not happen.
So it's not it's not just that it was hidden.
No,
it did not.
It wasn't happening. It wasn't. That was why I'm saying, if at all, it's not something people would know. It's perhaps something that will just happen and remain hidden because it was not expected.
It was an abomination.
Yes, it was an abomination.
I got to your area, Ogoria Magongo, in 1994. And I still remember that as late as 1994, some of that culture was still very strong.
Very much there.
You dare not touch. You can see a girl barely clad just by the
beads around the waist,
and with her upper part all exposed.
Yes.
But you dare not go near her. You dare not touch her. It's an abomination.
Yes.
So I'm asking myself, how did the men? Because these days, you even hear that some men just seeing the forearm of a lady, they are sexually provoked. And when I say to people, what's going on? They say, no. That it's because they were tempted. And there are people who are saying that the rape is going on because girls are not dressing well. No, you tell us about what used to happen in those days when people hardly wore clothes. How? What was happening?
By the time I was growing up,
yes,
we were already introduced to dressing,
a bit of
dressing. But I remember my uncle telling me before he died that, he was referring to a woman.
Baba Olomi.
Baba Olomi,
yes.
My uncle. He was referring to a woman and he said, we grew up naked.
We grew up naked.
He was talking of that woman.
Yes.
That we grew up naked. Meaning that they were playing,
yes,
they were playing, as contemporaries,
as
naked. And that it's not something that was what was the order. And until when the age of initiation into womanhood comes, then...
No, I mean, our viewers need to know, that we have parts of this country where it was conventional for young women not to use clothes seriously, apart from beads around their waist, until they are introduced to womanhood.
That is it.
And
that was what it was.
And as long as they are not yet introduced to womanhood, they can go around naked, they can go around, and nobody dares touch them.
No.
Nobody. You can't even lure them in any way because it was an abomination.
It's an abomination. No one would even want to be seen or heard approaching a girl in that kind of state.
And we are talking of what girls? We are talking of girls of...
is it
8, 9, 10 or 14, 15?
No, teenagers. They would have grown to be teens as at that point. Yes.
So... If you guys managed at that time, what do you think has happened? Every day now we are hearing of rape, we are hearing of fathers raping children, we are hearing of young people, before young people know themselves for 1 week, they are sleeping together. What's going on?
Father, over time, I have seen the degeneration of morality.
The degeneration of morality
in the society. Morals no longer take on the
pride of place.
The pride of place in the thinking of young people. Well, I do not know to what extent one might say that this was transmitted to the young people by the older ones. But this is what I have now come to see, that the level of morality has dropped so drastically that young people now grow up without any qualms about how they behave, how they look, and how they talk.
So just as what we are seeing, let's say in the dressing of young people, where people can decide to bring tattered clothes and wear and call it style.
Call it fashion.
So inside the psyche of young people, maybe it's also tattered, maybe.
Clearly, because that is it. They do not see anything to value, to protect in their thinking. And so they just look what is happening out there. Okay, so let's copy it. And let's...
Is this thing linked to this expression that I got from the area boy in Lagos who said, Emi okukuulo?
That's right.
Emi okukuulo. Is there that, do you think that it is linked to what we are saying?
It is linked to it because gradually the young person who feels that I have no value, so that is to say, anything goes for me. So you'll be ready to do anything, to try anything, because the society has more or less made him feel that he cannot attach, or he need not attach
any value to his own life.
To his life or to his person.
And therefore, he doesn't attach any value to the other person's life.
Other person. So it transmits it immediately. That's what it. It's sad because when you've lived the decades that I have lived, and I know how pure, how pristine the society was, and how the society, without much struggle, was able to maintain this. And I see now that there's nothing there to show.
It is called naked public square.
Yes, that's right.
When the public square has been denuded, completely naked. Yes. Now, we're talking of purity and chastity. What about governance? You told me that you worked in the audit department of the Northern Nigerian government during Sardauna's time.
That's right.
And you even told me that you were the one, your desk was auditing the Sardauna's.
Yes, we were vetting the vouchers
from Sardauna's office.
Yes, with which he was earning his salary.
And that you told me he earned £1,000
a month.
Every month.
Yes.
That's what the premier of Northern Nigeria was earning.
That is it. That would appear on his salary voucher.
Every month.
He was the only one listed on the voucher.
Yes.
Other departments and ministries, they have a composite list of names on the vouchers. It's only just one. And
he gave details of how he spent.
That is the £1,000. That is his salary, and that is.
Can you imagine what the governor of Kaduna alone is earning now?
So you can imagine what has happened since then.
Wow.
And when, as at that time, it's not okay. You see, maybe bribery and corruption at a very, very low scale. They used to call it 10%.
10%.
And in reality, the figures they manipulate will be within the range of 10% of the value of whatever is being.
Today?
Now today.
It's 100%.
What is 100%? A contract that sometimes 2-3 times the value of the contract is what will be declared as the contract.
And of course, and sometimes they still don't execute that contract after taking 300% value.
Yes. That's the level of degeneration that the society has experienced.
You attempted to go into politics briefly when we left the Cali Secretariat in 2007.
Yes.
What was your experience?
Well, it was quite some education.
When you went to attempt local government chairman politics?
You know, it was quite some education. And it didn't take me time to realize that, I'm in the wrong place. Even among my people.
Yeah.
Who felt, oh no, let him return to Lagos and leave us to run our business here.
To run our dirty business.
Yes, that is it. Because it's money. It's the payouts. I just realized that it's the payouts. And if you don't have the money to continue to pay out on demand,
so you lived your life. You left your state, your local government. You left in 1950 when you went to Kefi.
Yes, 1952.
1952. And you came back in 1997 with all your experience, including experience working in the audit office of Northern Nigeria.
Yes.
Your experience working in British Petroleum.
That's
your
right.
experience working in you experience working at the Catholic Secretariat of Nigeria.
And my experience dealing with the local governments when I was in the pharmaceutical sector.
Yes.
Contracts,
yes.
The local governments,
yes.
And the state governments.
Yes.
My experience with
you took all that experience home, and the people chased you away. You don't belong here.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. So what? I mean, at 80, you have seen it all. What would you say? Where would you say we got it wrong?
That's quite a question to answer. Because I cannot place my finger on what it is that turned the switch and began to make us
down the drain.
What we have become. And okay, people say the old breed. And I'm like, where did this really begin? And I just think gradually it's a thing of the mind. Someone is in a position and realizes that this position gives me the power and the means to manipulate, to do and undo, and begins to practice it. And it's like...
it becomes an addiction.
Evil finds it easy to thrive in that kind of environment. And once it begins to play on the mind, it begins to generate recruits. The very next person, the one that thinks about it, makes the other person come on board. They become two, and then 2 to 3. Then it becomes a system.
So from individual evil, you start having systemic evil.
It becomes a system, and people now come into the system. Whatever morals they come with, they now begin to struggle with the conscience of flowing with the system or losing their jobs and checking out. And most of the time, people, because of survival instinct, will probably just suppress their indignation, and they suppress it, and then most of the time become part of it.
I have told people about you and your skills, your talents, and so on. I mean, part of what you did for us in the Catholic Secretariat is that you are actually the one that edited the minutes of the Bishops' Conference. Throughout the time I was Secretary General, you were the ones who made sure you edited, cross the T's and dot the I's and make sure the grammar is okay and so on. And which is why you had the Secretary General of the Catholic Bishops' Conference Secretariat coming for the Mass of Thanksgiving. I'm saying, how did you acquire such skill? You read accounting. You didn't read English language. Can you tell us how you became how you acquired your skill, your dexterity, how did you come to have such level of command of the English language and both written and spoken, to the extent that professors, people with first degree, second degree, third degree in language are giving you their writings to edit?
Well, I would say that it's God's grace, really. It's just God's gift. It all started, of course, when I was in the secondary school.
Okay.
And I did a lot of reading.
You did a lot of reading?
Reading outside the curriculum of the school. I did a lot of reading. I would go into the library, and some of these British magazines. And then I began to take an interest in
words.
How this language was put together.
Words and how they are formed.
Yes. And then I said, look, the dictionary is like a reference document. And I was curious, how did they come about this dictionary? How did they put it together? And I began to see the structure of words, broken into syllables. And then I began to study how the dictionary itself was put together. And I couldn't help but marvel at the owners of the language who decided that this is the way.
And you told me that when between the time you finished secondary school and the time you started high school, or about that time, you actually studied the dictionary from A to Z.
Yes. So I mean, it was for me, and I was in the secondary school when all of this happened, and some of my classmates would come. They would marvel at how I was able to do my fit into the language so easily. Well, we had expatriate teachers.
You had good teachers.
Good teachers, English people. And some of them easily recognized that I was gifted in this area. And that was the beginning. And because I was reading voraciously, the vocabulary just built.
I mean, when you talk about reading, the amount of time you spent reading, I remember James Baldwin, the Black American literary scholar, the writer
Yes,
in
James
America.
Baldwin, yes.
James Baldwin. He says that as a secondary school person, during holidays, he spent his time in New York in a library.
That's it.
And he said the library in the neighborhood, he read every book that was there.
Anything that was available.
He read.
So I was a regular visitor to the school library. And when I'm on holiday, like when my father was working in Okene,
Yes.
I spent a lot of time in the
Library.
public library.
By then, we had public libraries.
Yes. Just reading through whatever material is there. And that's without me knowing it.
You built yourself up.
I just built it.
And I like our viewers to know that actually what I've benefited the most from Mr. Aiyemo's working with me is that skill, editorial skill. Everything I ever wrote in the last 30 years, he edited. And when you read those things, you find no problem with anything. I mean, because of that skill. And he says it is when he was in secondary school and immediately after, he spent time to study the English language. How I wish our young people today can devote time rather than just watch movies and some of them useless movies that don't add any value. How I wish they can pick an area of interest and spend time to develop their skills in it. I mean, it is wonderful to have had the privilege of benefiting from this skill of yours, and I pray that a lot of people will be challenged that after secondary school, before university, that you sat down and took Advanced Learners Dictionary and analyzed every word from A to Z. I mean, this is fantastic. May the Lord be praised. Yeah. And at 80, you are still editing for me now.
Well,
at
I
80.
thank God.
And
yes.
We pray that at 90, I mean, and luckily God has given you good eyes, has given you good brains. So who says you may still be editing for me at 90 or for other people? May the Lord bless you.
Praise God.
I've been speaking with Mr. Gregory Aiyemo, who marks his 80th birthday these days, and discussing what life was in 1940 and from 1940 to 2020. May the Lord bless you. We will have another segment to discuss more about the kind of values that have sustained you. God bless you.